Today we are going to look at selection. By the end of this lesson, you will have another important tool that you can use when building Python programs, the if statement. I know that my students don't particularly enjoy theory, but selection is an important programming concept, so I want to spend a little time understanding the main idea before we write any code. In simple terms, selection means choosing between different options. In everyday life, we make decisions based on conditions all the time. For example, if it's raining, take an umbrella. If your password is correct, allow the user to log in. If a customer is over 18, allow them to purchase a particular product. And if a player has enough points, move them to the next level. Programs can make decisions in exactly the same way. When a program makes a decision, we need a condition to evaluate. The condition tells the program what it needs to check. Let's look at the example on the screen. To move to the next level, the player needs more than 200 points. So our condition is points greater than 200. We are comparing the player's score with 200. In this example, the player has 189 points. So 189 is not greater than 200. Therefore, this comparison will be evaluated as false. Remember, we already learned that comparison expressions produce Boolean values, true or false. And this is where our previous lessons start to come together. We already know how to create a condition and get a Boolean result. Now we are going to use that result to control what our program does. Before we write any Python, let's visualize this decision using a flowchart. We've already learned how to solve problems step by step using an algorithm. A flowchart gives us another way of visualizing that algorithm. So let's start with a question our program needs to answer. Is the number of points greater than 200? There are two possible answers, yes or no. If the answer is yes, we could congratulate the player and move them to level 2. If the answer is no, we could display a different message, perhaps telling them that they need more points. The important thing to understand is that the result of our condition controls which path the program takes, and this is the idea behind selection. Now that we have visualized our algorithm, we can turn it into Python. Python uses the if statement to make this type of decision. We can have as many different choices as our program needs. For now, we are going to keep things simple and focus on two possible outcomes, just like in our flowchart. The condition can be true or false. When it's true, Python will execute the code we placed inside the if block. When it's false, Python will skip that block. Now let's look at the syntax of the if statement. Remember, syntax means the rules of the programming language. It tells us how we need to write our code so that Python can understand it. First, we write the if keyword. After if, we write our condition. The condition is an expression that Python evaluates to determine whether it's true or false. In our example, points greater than 200. Our condition produces a Boolean result. At the end of the line, we need to write a colon. The colon tells Python that the block of code belonging to the if statement is about to begin. On the next line, we write the code we want Python to execute if the condition is true. Notice that this line is indented. Python uses indentation to show that this code belongs to the if statement. By convention, we normally use 4 spaces for indentation. There can be more than one line inside a block. Every line that belongs to the if statement needs to have the same indentation. Once we stop indenting, Python knows that the code is no longer part of the if block. So far, we've looked at what happens when the condition is true. But what happens when the condition is false? This is where the else statement can help us. If the condition is false, Python will move to the else block, if one exists. We write the else keyword followed by a colon. Notice that we don't write a condition after else. Else simply means if the previous condition wasn't true, do this instead. The code underneath else is also indented. Just like with if, the indentation tells Python which lines belong to the else block. So now we have 2 possible paths through our program. If the condition is true, Python runs the if block. If the condition is false, Python runs the else block. Before we finish, let's recap the important points from today's lesson. Selection allows our program to make decisions. An if statement checks a condition and runs its block of code when the condition is true. If we also need an alternative when the condition is false, we can use else. Remember the basic syntax: the if keyword followed by the condition, a colon, and then an indented block of code. And remember that indentation isn't just for making our code look tidy. In Python, indentation tells us which code belongs to a particular block. And now it's your turn. Don't just watch this example. Try writing your own program using if and else. You could ask the user for their age and decide whether they are 18 or older, or ask for a test score and decide whether the student has passed, or create your own example from everyday life. The important thing is to practice writing the condition yourself and deciding what should happen when it is true and when it is false. In the next lesson, we will build another small program using if statements and put these ideas into practice.